Good morning, Michael. Thank you for agreeing to doing this interview with us. And whereabouts in Spain do you usually travel to?
Okay, so we usually go to Mallorca. Probably go to Mallorca once or twice a year, and have done for a number of years. I would like to travel more in mainland Spain, but that's probably for next year and the year after.
Okay, very good. And what are the reasons you want to acquire the language?
Well, I think the initial reason was just because we go to Mallorca, and I really just wanted to be able to, be able to ask for things in shops and restaurants and make restaurant bookings and all that sort of stuff. And I guess there was one time when, probably a long time ago, at least 10 years ago, where we did actually have a burglary, and my wife had her engagement ring stolen, and I guess we had an interaction with the police, and it was quite difficult to have a decent conversation, because I guess they were speaking Spanish and I didn't have a great understanding of Spanish, so it was quite difficult to be able to communicate the message. So multiple reasons, and also I think that if you are in a Spanish-speaking country, even a tourist one, and you speak in Spanish or try to speak in Spanish, you get much better service.
Very good. Yeah, that is true. And how long have you been learning Spanish with us?
I don't know, actually. It's at least 3 years, I think. Could be.
It's been about 5 years now.
It's been 5 years, isn't it? Oh my goodness! It's yes, okay. We tend to lose a couple of years during COVID, but yes, I think I probably started when I retired. That was 6 years ago, so maybe 5 years.
Very good. 2018, I got your first request for tuition. Very good. So, do you think that we have helped you fill in the gaps that you had in your knowledge since you first started?
Well, I suppose when I first started, I knew some Spanish words, and I'd done a little bit of Spanish, so I could do basic Spanish sentences, introductions, and all that sort of stuff. And I suppose at that period in time, I didn't realize how large the gaps actually were. So yes, you've helped to fill a huge number of gaps, and I guess there still are many, many more gaps still to be filled, actually. But no, we've come a long way in those 5 years.
Very good. And how much progress do you feel you've made working with me?
Well, so I suppose, yes, to begin with, I knew some Spanish words, or numbers and colors and objects and all that sort of stuff. And I guess looking back now, it's quite amazing to think that I think the last 4 novels I've read have all been in Spanish. Now, okay, yeah, a couple of them might have been Harry Potter, but they were still in Spanish, and they're quite long books. So that, I think that's quite a major achievement and to be honest, when I started, I didn't think I'd probably ever get to that level of being able to read a novel in Spanish, and that's now what I'm doing. So it's quite an amazing progress, actually. And actually watching programs on Netflix in Spanish. Okay, I do tend to have subtitles on most of the time, but so it will come a very, very long way.
Very good. Congratulations on that, and all the work and the effort that you are putting into this project. So what is your opinion about the homework that I have been requesting from you?
So I guess the homework has changed significantly over these years. I guess to begin with, it might have been on revising a particular verb, or how you use that verb, ser versus estar, or looking at ahead to some exercises in the book that we use. And I guess more recently that homework's developed into looking at or analysing a book, a Sherlock Holmes book. And I guess at times it's maybe partly my fault, but at times it felt challenging in terms of, I think I was trying to do too much. I was trying to cover a chapter in, I don't know, 2 weeks or whatever. And I guess we had a conversation about, no, Michael, it's only, you spend the amount of time doing the homework that you want to do. And if you can only do half an hour 1 week, or an hour, or whatever, that's all you need to do. And I think, once I understood that, it's become a lot more manageable given everything else that's going on in my life, etc. And that, I guess, I also probably at times it's felt like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we analysing a particular text? Because you're probably trying to get me to do things that I don't actually understand in English, and we're trying to do them in Spanish. But I think it is helpful and very useful in terms of understanding the Spanish language and just getting to the basics of, yes, that is an adjective, and it comes with that in the sentence, and these are different types of verbs, etc. And it just helps you understand Spanish when you're reading it or seeing it written down. It just makes everything much more easy.
Exactly, very good. And what about the resources that we give you? What do you think of them?
So there's the textbook we use, although I must admit we probably use the textbook less now. You seem to be coming up with alternative ways of finding resources, alternative resources that are probably just to meet my needs, whatever they might be at the time. I think some of those are quite fun. There's some videos that we watch, and Q&A questions and discussions that we do around that. That's very useful. I think you've also suggested a number of resources to me, whether that's just to improve verbs or the way I pronounce words, etc. And I guess I probably use 2 or 3 of those resources every week, actually. So yeah, I haven't switched on to 100% of them, but maybe 90% of them, and I do use a number of them every week. So very good.
Very good. Well, the 90% is a good percentage anyway. So what level of the Spanish language do you think you are now compared to when you started? Having read the guide that I sent you about the Common European Framework of Languages, what level do you think you are now, based on those descriptions?
Well, I think we've now got to, I have now got to level B1.
And where do you think you started?
I must have started at whatever the most basic level was, A1. If we
well, it's A1.
I guess it couldn't have been any lower than A1, could it? So we started at A1 and we worked ourselves through to B1. Yeah, I must have been looking at some of those criteria. I'm not sure I'll ever get to whatever it was, C1 or C2, but maybe we might get to B2 one day. This would be good, but yeah, we certainly have come a long way just in be able to have conversations and understand text. And yeah, it's not fluent, but I think the only way I'd ever become fluent is to go and live in Spain for 6 months.
Very good. So yes, I think you can get there easily. So how have our Spanish tuition services, how have they helped you generally in your life?
Well, it's maybe, well, having started Spanish when I retired, I guess Spanish was, in addition to just wanting to be able to speak it when I went to Spain, it was also, I guess, something for my grey cells or whatever, in terms of wanting something to keep me thinking, to keep me learning. I guess I'd always worked in an environment that was quite high pressured and always continually learning, continuing developing, and also always getting out of your comfort zone, if you like, and being a person with a science degree and being an accountant for most of my life. Languages was never something I was particularly comfortable with, but I thought, let's get out of your comfort zone, try and learn a language. And I think that way it's given me not necessarily a purpose, because I've got other things to do, but an element of purpose. It's given me something to strive to do, something to try and get better at, something to improve myself, which I like doing. And I think there are times during that journey we've been on that learning Spanish has maybe felt overwhelming. And I guess you probably pick me up and say, look, Michael, think about where you started.
Exactly.
Where have you come to? What can you do now? Think on the positives that you have actually achieved. Don't think about the things that are still missing or the things that you would like to be able to do. You'll get there eventually, but think about the journey you've been on, and that journey you've come a very long way. And so you can, so you have helped me think about the positives that have been achieved rather than the negatives.
Correct. Very good. So there's a lot of coaching around what we do as well. It's not just teaching the language. It's about, what is the best decision that you can make for yourself. So how confident now when you go to Spain, how confident do you feel about your Spanish speaking skills?
Well, I'm confident to try it wherever I might be. Mm-hmm. I make mistakes, and I think you just got to accept that you will make mistakes. And by and large, if you're having a conversation, whether it's in a restaurant or a shop, and you're trying to do something, the people you're speaking to are not going to be nasty. Actually, they might, if you've got the wrong word, they'll tell you, they'll help out and say you got the wrong word. But they're usually just very accepting the fact that you are trying to learn Spanish and use Spanish. So I think it's gone quite well, actually. I think there was one time recently where we had a flight cancelled and we went to an hotel that we had to stay for the extra night, and the staff there didn't really speak English, and I was able to have a good conversation with the staff in Spanish, and some other people came in to tell English-speaking people, and I was able to communicate to them in terms of what was happening in the hotel, etc. So that was quite good, just to be able to forced into that situation and having to use Spanish. And it was quite amazing, actually, how much you could understand or get across to people. So it was good. So yeah, we've come a long way. Just booking I'm confident enough to phone up a restaurant and book a table in Spanish now, whereas I guess years ago I'd have been a bit worried to do that, actually, but it's
very good. So how do you feel about all those accomplishments now when you are in the situation?
No, it's great how far I've come. Actually, I should be proud of myself in terms of what I have achieved.
I agree. Very good. And how much value has learning a language been added to your life? Not just learning the language as per se, but how much value have you got out of it, the learning is, regarding mental health, for example, or any other areas in your life that you may have improved as a result?
Well, I think coming back to maybe what I said earlier, but I think it is that a mental issue in terms of wanting to continue to challenge myself. Mm-hmm. Like, it's easy if you retire, you could just, I don't know, whatever, get better relaxed and sit about not doing anything, not stimulating yourself. But I do want to continually stimulate myself, try new things, and I think that's what this has actually done. So it has given me a purpose, added value, driven me to do things, to try things I've never done before, and I think that's important in all aspects of your life, to continue to have new experiences and to try things for the first time, and continue to push yourself.
Very good.
Certainly have done. Push myself.
Excellent. So that's a really good approach to things. And how do you find my personal approach when we are working together?
I think you are very patient. I think the lessons are fun. There certainly have been times when there's maybe been a new topic, and I don't know, that new topic just blows my mind or something, because it's something that a concept we maybe don't have in English, and you're thinking about it a completely different way. But you're very patient, and you will try different approaches to try and get it across to me. Mm-hmm. I think there probably are times you're exacerbated, but it doesn't really come across, so that's great. We've kept just trying different ways, maybe coming back to the same topic but doing it from a different angle. Mm-hmm. And eventually I get the topic, and it's quite amazing to think about some of these topics or parts of the Spanish grammar, etc., that I probably struggled with a couple of years ago would just be bread and butter nowadays. I don't need to think too much, but it's just when it's something new to start with. I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun way of learning. I never feel under too much pressure. Yes, we make mistakes, and there will be some days, some lessons that are more difficult than others, but you never make me, you always make me feel positive, and we've achieved something by the end of the lesson. There's never any negativity associated with the lessons or my trying and getting things wrong. There's always a positive element coming out of it, which is good.
Indeed, very good. So we're done on that as well. So what is your personal advice to anyone who wants to acquire or improve their Spanish language speaking skills?
Yeah, I think you've got to be committed. You've got to want to do it. And I think you have to set aside a certain amount of time. You've got to find some time in your schedule to do it. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing that. I mean, I do crosswords in the morning when I'm having my breakfast, Spanish crosswords. This year I'm trying to get a bit fitter and I'll spend some time on my exercise bike. And when I'm on my bike, I either watch a Netflix video program, or I listen to some Spanish podcasts, so there's lots of ways of fitting things in. I remember last year when I was decorating, which is not the most exciting thing in life, but I was decorating a room and I was just listening to Spanish podcasts all the time. So whilst you're doing something else, you can still be learning Spanish and improving your driving yourself forward. So there's lots of ways, but I think you've got to do it regularly. And I must admit, I do try and do something in Spanish every single day of the week. I maybe haven't quite achieved it. There's maybe the odd day I have off, but I do try and do at least one or two things in Spanish every day. So
there is the consistency there, which is necessary to learn the language every day. So it becomes a way of life.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing is you got to try and be assess yourself and recognize where your weak points are. So if you're doing an exercise or reading a book and something you keep struggling with or finding difficult, and it could just be, the conjugations of star versus sir or whatever, and using the right one. It's okay, once you've identified that as a problem, well, go and do something about it. Go and do some exercises, just become in your mind.
Very good. Because the things that you already know, you don't need to worry about fixing those because you already know them. So just keep using them as normal. Yeah. And what would you say to other students of Spanish, other people who want to learn Spanish? What would you say to them about our services?
Well, I find your services excellent. I've done it for many years. It's a fun way to learn. But if you want to be pushed as well, Beatrice will push you, challenge you, get you out of your comfort zone, which is all things you want to do if you want to learn Spanish, but it's done in a fun, professional, supportive manner. And you certainly have challenged me to do things that I probably don't want to do. But we've done them, we've achieved them, it's been fun, it's been supportive, and you've enabled me to come a long way in my Spanish learning journey. So thank you.
You are very welcome, and you are doing a great job. And thank you so much for today. And look forward to seeing you on Wednesdays again.
Indeed.
Very good. So.